Scoop did it! This is it, folks. I've spent the better part of a month doing end-of-year videos, but we have finally reached the absolute end. It is, of course, time to tell you about my top 7 games of 2018. This is going to be a little different from last year, though. I don't feel like I played enough games in 2018 to have a top anything. In fact, all the games I reviewed, that was like most of what I played. I just didn't have time to try out a lot of different stuff, and if you watched my reviews, you'll know that I didn't play a lot of games that absolutely blew me away. So instead, these 7 games are primarily ones that stood out to me in some way. They're all absolutely games I enjoyed, and some were very much worthy of any top whatever list I could cook up. But more than anything, they each achieved something great, and thus I'll also be giving each one a specific award. So let's do it! Let's completely and officially close out 2018. Here are my top-ish 7 most interesting or notable games of 2018 in no particular order. Man, that does not have the same ring to it as top 10, does it? Splatoon 2's Octo Expansion DLC gets the Lived Up to Potential award. It isn't a standalone game, but I'm still including it on this list because of what it achieved. Nintendo is generally pretty hesitant when it comes to a lot of elements that I feel would make their games better, but Octo Expansion does not hesitate. Instead of just stapling some extra missions onto the already excellent Splatoon 2, the team did everything in their power to expand and build upon the game and craft a unique experience. It takes place in a new location within the world and uses a very fresh, fun, and even kind of dark aesthetic. It makes up for the main game's by-the-numbers campaign by providing character development, an incredible ending sequence, and crazy lore revelations that fill out the Splatoon universe. And of course, it provides a very hefty dose of extremely unique and particularly difficult challenges for more experienced players. I myself found a few too many of the challenges to be a little too finicky and tedious, but better players than I felt differently, and there's still more than enough great stuff in this package to justify the cost. Everything that was missing from Octo Valley, Octo Expansion makes up for it. The world of Splatoon has so much potential, and Octo Expansion actually works toward building Splatoon into what it could be. And that, of course, makes me even more excited about where Splatoon might go in the future. Wolfenstein 2 easily grabs the Pleasant Surprise award. Going in, I expected a solid shooter, hopefully with some deeper elements such as secrets and collection and upgrade systems, as was the case with Doom. For the most part, that's what I got. On the shooting front, I was not disappointed. The gameplay is smooth, frenetic, and just plain satisfying. I've never been a huge shooter fan, but this game is one of those rare cases where I like the shooting just because the shooting is fun. Those other elements I mentioned aren't quite as satisfying as they were in Doom. The game's levels are much more linear and have some pacing issues, but this game ended up giving me something I did not expect: superb characters, story, and overall world building. It paints a fascinating picture of an alternate history where Germany won World War II with wacky action movie shenanigans and genuine social commentary in equal parts. It contains countless character interactions made all the better by a stellar voice cast. I ended up enjoying the game way more than I thought I would, and my only regrets were not playing the first game first and playing the Switch version. Don't get me wrong, it's a really impressive port, and if you don't have another system to play it on, I can't recommend it enough, but it's not so much of a handheld-friendly experience that I think the Switch's benefits outweigh its limitations. If I play it again, I'll be picking it up for my PS4. StarLink Battle for Atlas gets the A Touch of Magic award this year. I was first drawn to the game because of its interesting toys-to-life concept where neat little model ships could be customized on the fly, and I was pulled in further by the announcement of exclusive Star Fox content. But what ultimately won me over was the great gameplay combined with the gigantic open world. You can explore a planet, then seamlessly fly up into space and down onto another planet without a single loading screen. There are loads and loads of collectibles to find, and resources to collect, and outlaw bases to raid, and outposts to save and build and upgrade. The story and characters are sorely lacking, going for something of a simplified, kiddie amalgamation of just about every sci-fi property in existence, and the game can be extremely repetitive, with much of its objectives feeling a lot like padding. But despite all that, something about it really appeals to me. Even if it's repetitive, the moment-to-moment gameplay is so much fun that I enjoy vegging out and trying to fill out all the planet maps and beat all the outlaws and take down all the extractors and whatever else the game puts in front of me. More importantly though, it provides a freedom of exploration that I've just not experienced in other sci-fi games. Despite how underdeveloped planet exploration was in Mass Effect, I still adored it, and StarLink is like driving around in the Mako times 20. But instead of picking planets on a star map, you're flying freely around a solar system, going wherever you want, whenever you want. It scratches a fairly specific space exploration itch that I've had for just about forever, all while being just simplistic enough that I don't have to think too hard about anything. I can just go have fun in space, shooting guys and scanning animals and stuff. It makes me feel like a kid again, having a cool space adventure. And because of that, I can honestly say it was one of the most notable games I played in 2018. There ain't too much I can say about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that I didn't just say in my review like 2 seconds ago, but I will zero in on one specific element of the game and give it the "more game than I know what to do with" award. I've already spent 20 hours on World of Light, and I didn't even get everything, and when I do, there will be the allure of working through a New Game Plus on hard to collect extra cores and fill out the rest of my skill tree. I've only gotten about a third of the game's spirits, and I know I'll be spending countless hours on the spirit board, especially considering I consistently lose to the higher power ones. After I build up a good team, I want to take on my friends with their teams, and that of course leads to a whole metagame with constant experimentation and rebuilding and all that. Even beyond spirits, there are just so many characters in Smash Ultimate, and I want to do a lot of playing with my friends, but that means getting to know each of the characters better and further exploring all of the game's modes. Then there's Classic Mode. I still want to complete that with every character, and I want to get good enough to complete it at higher skill levels. I don't know, man. What am I gonna do? Make Smash my full-time job? I don't know how I'm gonna manage. It may be intimidating, and I probably won't ever get as deep into the game as I would in some other life where I magically had about 1,000% more time on my hands, but I can say that having a game that gives me way too much to do is a problem I definitely enjoy having. Undertale didn't release in 2018, but the Switch version did, and this was the first time I'd played through the whole thing, so I'm gonna talk about it. The game isn't just incredible by its own right. I did give it a perfect score and call it an indie masterpiece in my review. It's particularly remarkable when you consider that with the exception of some art assets, the whole thing was made by one guy with a copy of Game Maker Studio. Other 1- or 2-person teams have put out games that look a lot more flashy and polished than Undertale, but even though the game does feel like a low-budget project, it brings a disproportionate amount of fresh ideas and genuine good times to the table. So much of this is thanks to the writing. Undertale proves that it almost doesn't even matter what you're doing in a game as long as the characters and the narration and even the environment are delivering joke after gag after quip. A simple RPG with such good humor and characters would have probably been good enough, but Undertale also manages to weave it into a very unique battle system and an engaging story that's all deeply rooted in themes of morality, oppression, and friendship. Undertale is constantly surprising, incredibly deep, and enjoyable every step of the way. And did I mention that the soundtrack is stinking incredible? All this apart from some art assets from one guy and a copy of Game Maker Studio. Undertale proves that even with very few resources and very little experience, even one person can make a masterpiece with good ideas and hard work. Dark Souls is another game I missed the first time around, but got to play in 2018 thanks to a Switch port. And this game gets the I Am Alive award. I found out firsthand that yeah, Dark Souls is hard, pretty much like everyone says. I mean, it's the Dark Souls of Dark Souls games. It's incredibly demanding, requiring quick reflexes, attack memorization through repeated fights, and keen strategy, while, at least at a beginner level, discouraging spontaneity and risky moves. I don't generally enjoy super difficult games, but its eerie atmosphere, fascinating creature designs, and largely seamless world captivated me, and eventually I came to really appreciate the challenge. For the most part, you earn every victory. You overcome every obstacle with your own 2 hands. The game certainly ain't perfect. To be fair, in my review impressions video, I suggested that some bosses absolutely have to be cheesed and are otherwise unfair, and I'll admit that was a little off base. Obviously, there's nothing in this game that can't be beat through traditional means, but I do maintain that the game doesn't always encourage you to do it the traditional way. Sometimes you have to fight a boss dozens of times, or even dozens and dozens, and the closest bonfire, i.e. checkpoint, is so far away that you can literally spend hours of playtime just trekking to the boss room, which is made even worse by the fact that nearly all enemies respawn whenever you touch a bonfire. I have the capacity to be very patient. I can handle some downtime every once in a while, but this game does not respect your time. Then there's just so much that the game refuses refuses to tell you or buries in a menu somewhere. Trial and error is fine to a point, but I literally spent hours digging through guides just to figure out how a lot of the game's basic systems work. That's just awful game design in my book. Despite its shortcomings though, playing through Dark Souls was a pretty darn special experience. Its giant world with all of its adventure-y exploration elements is just that good. And as its award suggests, it just made me feel alive. It cut through the layer of pudge that so many hand-holding modern games had insulated me with over the years and demanded that I become skilled. I wanted to quit a number of times throughout my playthrough, but I always felt compelled to try just one more time, and not since being a little kid and finally beating the last boss in Ren and Stimpy on my Sega Genesis have I felt so accomplished by reaching the end credits. Okay, when I said these games were in no particular order, that was sort of a lie, because if I absolutely had to pick a game of the year, I'm pretty darn sure it would be Yoku's Island Express. It receives the Pure Unadulterated Joy Award because it was the only game in 2018 where I booted it up, realized how amazing it was within minutes, then didn't stop enjoying the absolute heck out of it until it was over. Yoku's Island Express is commonly described as a pinballvania game, and this is 100% accurate. You play as a little bug pushing around a ball, and the world is built like a giant pinball board, with paddles and bumpers and whatnot absolutely everywhere. You explore this world Metroidvania style, collecting fruits and items and abilities in order to regularly open up new paths and areas. The game is relatively short, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like a robust experience because it's so densely packed with stuff to do. There are tons and tons of secrets to uncover, and despite having a Metroidvania format that naturally blocks you from certain areas until you manage to unlock them, you've always got access to a wealth of places to explore. It's just limited enough to provide a satisfying sense of progression, but open enough that you feel like the world is this massive frontier to push into. On top of all that, the visuals are positively gorgeous, utilizing wonderful 2D art that blends with 3D models in the background to create one of the most vibrant game worlds I've ever had the pleasure of exploring. Then there are loads of fun and interesting characters to talk to, weird and creepy creature designs to marvel at, and a lot of really great humor as well. Yoku's Island Express is the only game on this list that I haven't gotten to do a video on yet, so I can't tell you how happy I am to bring it up here. Very rarely do I come across a game this full to bursting with creativity and charm. Rarely do I enjoy a game so thoroughly from start to finish with so few complaints that they're not even worth bringing up here. It's just pure joy in video game form, and when I finished it, I had to stop myself from jumping in for another run right away because I want to try to go as long as possible without playing it again so that maybe if I'm lucky, I can forget a good amount of it and enjoy it all the more the second time. I don't know if it'll work, but I gotta try. I cannot recommend this game enough, and it's got a demo in the eShop, so if this sounds like it might be your cup of tea, you've got no excuse at all not to at least try it out. Before we wrap this up, honorable mention goes to Hollow Knight. I started the game and played it for a good while, but then I came to this wizard guy that's like super hard, and then Smash came out and I had to do that, so basically I didn't get to finish it before the end of the year. I'm really enjoying it though, and I'm like 95% sure it would have made the list if I had finished it, so it gets the probably pretty good award. Congratulations, Hollow Knight. So that's that. Surprisingly, not a lot of first-party Nintendo games made the list this year, but if you're looking for spoilers for top games of 2019, we're getting Luigi's Mansion 3, Animal Crossing, a new generation of Pokemon, possibly Metroid Prime 4, and if we're lucky, Pikmin 4. I'm just gonna let that sink in for a minute.